next year. So it was shortly right after the success of Rhapsody in Blue that Gershwin wrote Piano Concerto in F. And again, he wrote it, like Rhapsody in Blue, for him to play the piano part, but to have the orchestra accompany him. And so this piece is really an amazing, cool piece. It has three big parts, three movements, as we call it in classical music. The first movement starts very unusually with the timpani playing by itself, really loud, bing, boom, 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 and then the other percussion like cymbals and snare drum coming in. And then right off the bat you hear this rhythm that will permeate the piece. Ba, 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 da, ba, da, bee, ba. Now keep in mind that this was the time, the 1920s, when the Charleston was a popular dance. And the Charleston was that rhythm basically. Da, 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 da. They used to do this popular dance. So he was basing this formal, serious classical piece on a popular dance of the times. And so the orchestra does this rhythm and sets up the mood, and then the piano comes in with something completely different, sort of changing the mood a little bit. But then eventually the orchestra and the piano, play together, and the melodies that Gershwin writes are so beautiful and just special, unusual too. Like when the piano first comes in, the melody with the repeated note, ding, 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 dee, da, dun, 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 dun. That melody will become sort of like the main melody of the whole piece. It will occur again in the last movement too. But then there are these other wonderful melodies that come in, and that timpani playing by itself, bing, bum, boom, bum, will recur many times in the piece. It's possible that Gershwin was influenced by the great composer Beethoven, and one of his concertos that begins with the sound of timpani drums, but very differently, just a gentle tap on the timpani, bum, 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 begins Beethoven's violin concerto. So Gershwin's sort of doing his own sort of play on that. Again, an idea of a composer writing a tribute to an earlier composer like Michael Gilbertson and Gershwin himself. Anyway, the second movement of the piano concerto, the second part, is the slow part. And in this one, it's very much like I was describing part of Michael Gilbertson's piece with the nightclub. This, you can just picture a smoke-filled room, a sort of dark nightclub scene, and you hear the sound of a muted trumpet playing a 12-bar blues passage with accompaniment by clarinets. And it's just so wonderful and lovely. The melody itself is really slow and sustained and with a lot of feeling. It's really much the blues. But then, Gershwin knows to mix it up and lighten it up and have some musical variety. So in the second movement, there's also a more sort of jovial theme. And it sort of was where the piano first comes in, actually. So there's a lot of different moods in this, and the nightclub-like music comes back. And in fact ends the piece with that sort of feeling. The trumpet comes back, and when the trumpet comes back the third time, it's joined by a flute with, again, other instruments and accompaniment, and it's almost as if two people are dancing in somebody's imagination. The trumpeter was there alone at first, then it's with the flute, and then at the last statement, that blues theme, it's just the flute. It's interesting. I don't know. You can use your imagination about what kind of story is going on there, but I like imagining the trumpet is the man, the flute is the woman, the man's alone, then he's with the woman, then it's about the woman, and however you interpret it. The last movement is rhythmically very exciting and intense. It's very fast, very jazzy, and we have melodies from the first and second movement that come back in that. So he's trying to tie the whole piece together to make a sort of unified whole in a way that, again, was inspired by earlier composers. This was Gershwin really showing his stuff, because this was the first time he also completed the orchestration of the piece by himself. A Rhapsody in Blue was originally written for a piano and a jazz band, and then when it became so popular that he orchestrated it, he asked his friend Ferdi Groffet, who was a composer, to do the orchestration of Rhapsody in Blue. So with Piano Concerto in F, just the very next year, he wanted to try to orchestrate it himself, and he pored over and studied other composers' scores so he could learn more about orchestration. And he did a brilliant job, not just with the innovations like the timpani and the other percussion that he used, but there are other beautiful combinations of instruments, and not just the trumpet with the mute and the flute solos, but there's English horn, and there's just many other special combinations of instruments in this piece that give it a certain type of color. You could say in a way that this piece is like Rhapsody in Blue expanded, if you will. And that wouldn't be too far off the mark. So I hope that this music inspires you. I know I've been rambling for quite some time, and I can't wait to see the artwork you come up with.